It's 2023. I feel like it's finally a time where we can sit and talk about this. When are we all going to agree that the Cowboys are no longer America's team? Anyways, let's get into the video. Welcome back, everybody. My name's Alex. That's Papa Blood. It's in the blood, and we are coming back to part 2 of our preseason NFL predictions. If you haven't seen the first video, it will be tagged at the end of this video. I can put it in the description. It is the AFC NFC South, but today we are going to get into a probably more controversial set of divisions, the NFC and AFC East.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. Couldn't have said it better. Where would you like to start today?
I do want to start with the NFC. I feel like this one's going to be a little bit easier for me than the AFC East, but I'll go ahead and kick things off if that's cool with my 1 through 4. The starting off with number 1 probably won't surprise many except for America's team. I've got the Eagles coming in at number 1 at a 12-5 record. With number 2, I do have the Cowboys, a little bit of a slump from last year, coming in at 9-8. I know these totals are going to seem a little bit lower, but I think this is a weird league. And I got number 3, I've got the Giants coming in at an 8-9, and the Commanders finishing up. This hurts me to say because I always root for these guys, but with a 7-10, just barely a losing record, and probably missing the playoffs.
Yeah, you kind of blew me away there with some of those right there. I'm going to go ahead and drop mine, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. I, too, have got the Eagles winning the division, and 12-5 seems to be where I find most division winners this year, believe it or not, right around that clip. Second, I'm going to take a little bit of a long shot. I do think Dallas is on the downward spiral with this team, although their defense is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and get Riverboat Ron and the Washington Commanders a clip in here at 9-8. I really feel like they're going to make us some improvement this year, and I love Sam Howell. New York Giants coming in third, tied with Dallas at 8-9.
Oh, man. I thought I was going to hurt feelings today, but looks like it's going to be you. I'm actually really happy with how yours plays out, and I hope yours ends up being more correct than mine because I told myself, like I said, you'll hear me say it in the last video, I was not going to be a homer for any of the random teams that I always am, and Washington always seems to be that team for me, and I tried to take a bit of a realistic approach. But 7-10 hurt my feelings, especially where I had them at the beginning of the season last year. So I like yours better. I'm actually perfectly fine with my 1 through 4, but I enjoy yours much better. But if you want to go ahead and lead off talking about that, because a lot of people are going to want to hear what you have to say about putting the Cowboys down at the bottom.
The Dallas Cowboys, especially preseason now, since we're almost into the where we're getting into the meat of it, the fact that they went out and got Trey Lance really was a big head scratcher for me. I'm not sure if that's, hey, the writing's on the wall, you need to perform this year, or maybe there's a lot of pressure on the coach and all the players this year. It feels like they've got so much pressure building down there, and it just seems like nothing ever works out in the long run. Everybody's wanted to see Tony Pollard be the lead back. Maybe that won't work out. I just got the feeling that the Cowboys are going to falter a little bit this year from what they've done in the previous years. Also, the Giants, as much as I like them, I feel like they overachieved last year a little bit. I don't think Daniel Jones is quite the world beater. I think he's going to revert back to turning the ball over a little bit more this year. He did a good job last year. And then going into Washington, Sam Howell was my favorite quarterback out of the draft class that he came through. And I knew it would take a year or two because he was the younger guy. He came out a year early. I love the weapons. I love the running game. I love the D-line. Only question I have about the Commanders is secondary issues. But if that D-line's on time, the secondary doesn't have to be as tough. And I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams this year. Philadelphia just looks like they're going to win the division hands down.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about Philadelphia. It's really hard to argue with that. I think there's a few concerns about Philadelphia, and it's not what you would think. People don't like to talk about it, but teams coming off Super Bowl losses tend to struggle a little bit more. I know that Super Bowl winners kind of have like a target on their back, and people forget that, like in this case, Philadelphia is number 2. They finished second in the whole league. So I think people don't think about that, and taking a loss is a lot harder coming back from than winning and coming back. So I feel like that's going to lead to well, they're going to expect to be in the big game again, right? They all have that expectation, as all 32 teams should expect that, but they've got well, we know how to get there. We're just going to do it again. And this team's perfect on paper, offense, defense, secondary. I mean, but people seem to forget that they lost their OC and their DC in this offseason. So, things are going to change in Philadelphia. Will they be fine? I think they'll be fine enough to win the division. I mean, 12 wins is going to be a lot for any team this year, but I think they're a team that's built to win at least 12 games. Could they win more? Yeah, but I think as long as they keep Jalen Hurts healthy, that 12 area is safe for them. But like if they lose Jalen Hurts, if he gets hurt his shoulder or whatever he was dealing with last year, I mean, they looked like a different team without him. And so that's something to be mindful of, and obviously we don't want to see that. But I think there's too many expectations for this team, which is why I think, 5 losses is a lot for a team that went mostly undefeated through the season. And they pretty much scraped through the playoffs as well until they got to the Super Bowl. So I think they're going to be good, but they're a team to keep an eye on because they're almost too perfect. And so I don't know. Now, over to the Cowboys, I don't see them dipping quite that much because they're a pretty solid team. There are a lot of question marks. They did lose Ezekiel Elliott, but I was one of those people that was saying Tony Pollard needs to be running back number 1 from the beginning. But he's coming off of a big injury. We don't know what he's going to look like. Is he full health, whatnot? They do have a good rookie running back as well in that room. The defense, I don't know if the defense is going to stay as strong as they did last year, and even like the offensive line as well. So there are a lot of questions. I feel like 9-8 is still fair. They've got a fairly favorable schedule, and I think that's why I gave them as many wins as I did. I don't think they're going to drop too far, and a lot of those wins are going to come within the division because they're really good at beating up on that division, even when they're not a great football team. To the Commanders, I hope your prediction's more right than mine. I love Eric Bieniemy being there. I love all the pieces they've brought over there. And the defense, the only reason I put them as low as I did this year is year after year after year, their defense really has kind of just let me down. They are built on paper the last couple years to be at like a top 5 defense and just haven't been there. Your point with the secondary still stands. They have potential. I think that this is a build year into next year. I don't think this is their year, but I think next year easily could be their year. And the Giants, they're the same team as last year. They brought Saquon. They need to make it count with him. They just need to capitalize on what they started building, and they've added a couple wide receivers. So I think that's why I kind of have them around the same spot as last season.
Darren Waller was a great add, by the way, for the Giants.
Yeah, they added a couple pass catchers, wide receivers, tight ends. We'll see how that pans out. But I look forward to this division. It's one of those divisions that are always put on prime time. We're going to watch them all year long. So I think they're an interesting one, to say the least.
It's pretty funny. Your 2, 3, and 4 and my 2, 3, and 4 are really, we're not that far apart. It's just the teams are in different positions. You got Dallas at 9-8. I got them at 8-9. So, I mean, I think we're really a lot closer. I think that just goes to show you the diversity in that division and the fact that the NFC is kind of down. So they're going to get beat up when they play AFC teams, presumably. And I think that means that it's going to make for a lot of tighter division races.
I think that's going to be true over a lot of divisions, not just the East, but I think most divisions are a lot tighter than people seem to realize. With that being said, you ready to hop over to the AFC?
Absolutely. And starting it off for the AFC East, man, first thing I'm gonna say is that I feel like these four teams are very close. I think New England's a step behind, but the top three teams in this division, I think it can go either way. I'm gonna start it out, and I'm going to go against my better judgment, and I'm going to take the New York Jets at 11-6. Uh, I really feel like just based on their defense last year, and even if Aaron Rodgers comes in and does game management, they're going to have a better record. I think they might get more than 11 wins, but I don't want to get too far ahead. At the same time, I got Buffalo coming in right behind them at the same mark of 11-6. With that being said, that gives the Jets the divisional win and divisional record. Miami third place at 10-7. And I think the New England Patriots are going to slip back, even with Bill O'Brien as OC, who's worked with Mac Jones. I feel like they're going to be a 7-10 team.
I wasn't sure what yours was going to look like, and so I wanted you to go first because I was a little bit nervous about it. But right before you got into that, we talked about how close a lot of these divisions are, and out of all of the NFC, AFC, all the divisions, this was probably the closest one that I did. And I just want to state before I read these off, because someone's going to be like, well, you just made that up. I did go through every single game, marked win and loss for everybody, so the math for every single team would add up correctly. I just needed to throw that out there before I said this. But my number one barely is going to be the Bills at 10-7. And number 2, 3, and 4 will go in this order: the Jets, Patriots, and then Dolphins, all three at 9-8, with the Jets winning enough divisional and AFC games to be a 7 seed in the playoffs, and which would push the Dolphins and the Patriots out. But I marked it all up, so it would go Jets 2, Patriots 3, and Dolphins 4, all with the same record, slightly different divisional record, of course. But yeah, this was my closest division, and I didn't realize that I had 3 teams with the same record until I added all their wins up at the end.
You know what? I think that's highly possible, because there was a couple games in there where I debated on, I let New England slip a little bit. And there was a couple games in there that I basically was like, man, these are coin tosses, even with their current roster, coaching staff, quarterback, they've always got a chance. And putting them at 7-10 was kind of hard on me to do, because I think they're probably the best coach team in the division. So, but with that being said, I really think that the top is going to be very tight in this division. I think it's going to be tight all the way through. I think it's going to come down to the last weekend, who makes the playoffs and who wins the division.
I know a lot of people say in this league you can't win your division with only 10 wins or with only 9 wins, but when you look through these schedules and when you look at these divisions as a whole, I feel like, especially reflecting off my AFC East standings, you realize how close these teams are. They're not that far off from each other, and it's really hard to tell who's the better team. And obviously, we haven't seen these starting rosters yet. So, week 1 could come out and only one of these 4 team wins, and the same thing in week 2 and week 3, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what kind of fate is going to dictate, in between all these guys and these rosters, and who's going to stay healthy and who's going to overachieve and who's going to underachieve. We don't know all those things, but once you start really breaking it down, and I know there was at least 3 divisions that I was really like this close on, but this one, like I said, was the closest. All of them were just 1 or 2 wins off from overtaking the other. And so I feel like it might not be the most interesting division, but just because like you've got like the NFC East and even or yeah, the NFC East and you've got the AFC North and the NFC North. There's a lot of teams that are being talked about right now. I know the big conversations, Aaron Rodgers. Listen, that Jets team was nearly perfect last year. They didn't have a quarterback. Look, I'm big on Zach Wilson, but they didn't have a quarterback. They had a quarterback, they might have taken that division easily. Like they hardly struggled and they won a lot of games for a lot of people who didn't think they were going to do anything last year. And then the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins could win more than 9 games? Yeah, I do. I think they are a team built to win. Even if their defense isn't the best, their offense is enough. Look at Patrick Mahomes' career, up until recently he didn't have a defense, but his offense was enough for them to continue to win. This is a very similar team. All they need is Tua to stay healthy. Tua stays healthy, they have a fighting chance. And then, the Bills, putting them at 10-7, that's going to raise a lot of flags because, they've been an 11, 12, 13 win team. I think this is the year they take a step back. Not a step back to where they crumble, but just a slightly less good version of themselves from the past years.
See, I'm very much with you there, and I thought about taking them back to that 10-7 mark, or maybe even a little bit further back. But didn't you just feel the animosity building within Brandon Beane and the organization after they lost? They had some snarky comments. It seemed like the team was crumbling at the end. That game against Cincinnati at home was a disaster. That was probably their overall worst performance. And with one guy out of their defense, I think there's more to it than just Von Miller not being there.
No, yeah. I mean, they played a lot of games without Von Miller, and they looked fine, right?
They were juggernaut early in the season last year with offense, and as the season went on, either teams figured out how to stop them or they had a disconnect, and I'm not sure what that was.
I think the disconnect with Stephon Diggs and this team right now is going to be another thing that holds Buffalo back. Like, they do have pieces. Like, I'm not going to discredit any part of their team, but nobody can tell me that Josh Allen without Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs is the same football player, because he looked horrible. I mean, he put up impressive stats and made him crazy cool plays when he was in his first year or two, but as soon as they got Stephon Diggs, they made that leap. They took that was the big step forward they needed so they could win playoff games and, be contenders, the team people talked about. But without him, until they get another big guy like that, you just know that team is going to hurt.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that they're a really good team that's very well coached, but it seems to me that they don't have the mental fortitude, to finish what they start. Right. I felt like they slipped all year, like they just started coasting. That's how I felt about them last year. I didn't feel like they were a juggernaut going into the playoffs. They felt like a team that was wounded. They did not feel like a champion. And, I think they've been kind of sliding backwards for a couple years now. If they may have passed their window.
It's going to be really hard. Do I think they still have that potential? I do. I do. There's issues, but those issues can be fixed. Will they? I don't know. I'm not in that front office. I'm not in that coaching room. I'm not in that locker room. I'm not involved with them at all. Do I know? No, I don't. But it could be fixed. Things could get better. And I think, Josh Allen is a good piece to keep in Buffalo for his career. It's good for the fans. It's good for the team. But I just don't know what they're going to do to, move up with a division that's closing in around them. Like, they need to do something. They need to make a big splash. They need to make some noise if they want to, hold on to what they've been working on the last couple years.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think I mentioned everybody except for the Patriots. My last thoughts on that is the question marks surrounding Mac Jones. I mean, as of right now, while we are recording this, Mac Jones is the only quarterback on the Patriots roster.
Yep.
There will obviously be another quarterback that gets signed or promoted. They're not going to just go in with only one. But,
They put Bailey Zappi on the practice squad this afternoon.
Yeah, but he's not on the active roster. There is only one active roster quarterback, and the practice squad members don't mean anything if they're not on the roster during a game. So, what are we going to expect out of him? Is he going to make a jump? I know he dealt with injury last year. Bill O'Brien is back in the building. I think that will help. I still got a bad taste in my mouth from Bill O'Brien with Houston. Started something good and tore it all down. So I'm hard to judge with a team like the Patriots, who I'm not that fond of, and a former head coach that I'm also not that fond of. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but it might be good for him. I think this is really a make or break year for Mac, because there's guys like Bailey Zappi just sitting there that Bill Belichick's not afraid to throw in a six-round pick guy and figure it out from there. He's stuck with Cam Newton for a year, so he doesn't care to hurt someone's feelings. I think the defense is good. The run game will still be good. I think the season comes down to the quarterback. Is he going to win games, or is he going to lose games, or is he going to manage games? Because he can manage games and they would be able to get by. But there's just all I have for the Patriots right now is question marks and a good defense. So time will tell for them. I thought when I made this up that I'd have them easily at number 4. And then like I said, when I added all these wins up, 2, 3, and 4 were all in the same spot. So I guess I felt a little more strong about them than I thought I did. Because realistically, in my head, I was thinking 6 or 7 wins. That's probably where they'll end up. And then they ended up with 9. And that honestly didn't surprise me either.
Man, I can't wait to watch. And that's the funny thing, the AFC East and the NFC East, which are really tight all the way through, play each other this year. That's the division swap. So a lot of our games today interacted with the others a lot more than some of the other divisions we're going to do, because they directly play each other. The Bills have got a tough schedule this year.
The whole East, they all do. Nobody's schedule's easy, and that's why I have the division winner having 10 wins and not 12 or 13 like some other divisions. That's just how it is. Last couple notes before we get started, and I will put the link for this in the description of the video. Our CBS NFL Pick'ems that we run every year. If you have not joined, you can join. It is free to do. Winner at the end of the season, it does run through the playoffs. We'll make up something good for whoever wins, as we do every year. So I'll put the link in there. It's free, like I said. All you have to do is pick teams every single week before their games start, and just winners. That's it. But next video we have coming out should be the AFC and the NFC West. It is finally time to talk about my boys. And then that would mean our 4th and final video is going to be the AFC North, NFC North, which is the craziest and probably hardest one for me. Save that for last, and we'll talk about your boys. Do you have anything else before we hit the road?
I'm just so stoked that NFL is about ready to be in full swing in about
8 days.
Yeah, 8 days.
8 days, and we will be back. I cannot wait. But on that note, thank you for watching. Thanks for spending your time with us. Let us know in the comments how wrong or right you think we are. And we will see you guys very soon for the next one. just mentally getting myself ready.